Okay, so going back to this brief illustrated guide of Islam. Okay, so if they're hinting that it's Muhammad, they are lying, they're false. So we go to the next page, see what they have to say, because that's what we believe they're hinting at. Okay, because it says brothers, it's saying, yeah, brothers, the Ishmaelites, the descendants of Ishmael, who these Islams, these Muslims claim that they are descended from. Okay. He was actually half Egyptian, half Chaldean, and his father progressed, merged with Heber, or Eber's tribe, and that's when they become a Hebrew. So originally being born in the Ur of Chaldea, possibly of Jewish heritage, after the Babylonian exile, they were free from that. The family went there and he was born, and she was born in the Ur of Chaldea, which is in Mesopotamia. So that makes him a Mesopotamian by birth. Okay. But somewhere along the way, as we said, he merged with the Hebrew, took on that, became a part of that, so it was called or referred to as a Hebrew. Okay. He probably ended up speaking that language, etc., etc. Okay, so here it says, a prophet like Moses. There were hardly any two prophets who were so much alike as Moses and Muhammad. Both were given a comprehensive law and code of life. Both encountered their enemies and were victorious in miraculous ways. Both were accepted as prophets and statesmen. One by Moses was accepted as a prophet by the house of Israel in that era, and his descendants, and Muhammad by Mohammedans and Islam up to this very day, right, as a prophet. So there's two different factions there that are saying, yep, Moses is a prophet, Muhammad is just like him. Okay. Both were accepted as prophets and statesmen. Both migrated following conspiracies to assassinate them. So who tried to kill Moses? Probably the Egyptian pharaoh, him and his people. Analogies between Moses and Jesus overlook not only the above similarities but other crucial ones as well. These included the natural birth, the family life, and the death of Moses and Muhammad, but not that of Jesus. Moreover, Jesus was regarded by his followers as the Son of God and not exclusively as a prophet of God as Moses and Muhammad were, and as Muslims believe Jesus was. So this prophecy refers to Muhammad and not to Jesus, because Muhammad is more like Moses than Jesus. Okay, is that true or is that false? If it's not true, then what is it? Is it blasphemy? Yeah, is it lies? Also, one notices from the Gospel of John that the Jews were waiting for the fulfillment of three distinct prophecies. One, the coming of Christ, the coming of Elijah, the coming of the prophet. Actually waiting for the coming of the Messiah, the promised Messiah. Okay, Christ is Greek for the anointed. Okay, it's not in the original Galilean Aramaic or even the Old Testament. It's not there. Same with the word God. Okay, these are all modern terms. Christos coming from the Greek, meaning the anointed one or anointed. Okay, so one, the coming of Christ. Two, the coming of Elijah or Elijah from the Old Testament, a prophet. The coming of the prophet. This is obvious from the three questions that were posed to John the Baptist. Now, this was John's testimony when the Jews of Jerusalem sent priests and Levites to ask him who he was. He did not fail to confess, but confessed freely, or admitted freely, I am not the Christ, or the Messiah, the promised Messiah. They asked him, then who are you? Are you Elijah, the Old Testament prophet, or Elijah? He said, I am not. Are you the prophet? He answered, no. John 1:19-21. Apparently he, as we just read from the Aramaic New Testament, he was that prophet. He just didn't know it. Even some Christians will say that, theologians, whatever, he just didn't know. He answered no. John 1:19-21, which we read out. If we looked in a Bible with cross references, we will find in the marginal notes that where the words the prophet occur in John 1:21, that these words refer to the prophecy of Deuteronomy 18:15 and 18:18. We conclude from this that Jesus Christ is not the prophet mentioned in Deuteronomy 18:18, neither is Muhammad of the Ishmaelites and Muhammad. Okay. We just read it out from the original Aramaic, translated into English by a native-born Aramaic speaker. And Peter, according to, where is it? This? Somewhere down here. Peter referred to God's promise of a prophet like Moses and saw its fulfillment in all the prophets from Samuel on as many as have spoken. Acts 3:22-24. Okay, as we read out, 3:22 from the Aramaic New Testament, referring to John the Baptist. He was the prophet, or a prophet. Possibly in the Old Testament where it says, one cries out, a voice in the wilderness, make way for the coming of the Lord. Okay? John's either utilising that, plagiarising that, right, and voicing it, or else it's something he didn't realise, right, and through the Spirit of God, power of God, he actually states that, right? Like one in the wilderness, a voice crying out, make way, make straight the paths for the coming of the Lord, right, etc., etc. So I'm going to go back again to this. This is what these Islamic Muslims are saying. From the brothers of the Israelites, Abraham had two sons, Ishmael and Isaac. Genesis 21. Fact, true, right? Ishmael became the grandfather of the Arab nation, and Isaac became the grandfather of the Jewish nation. Okay, so Arab, you have to define Arab. What does Arab mean? It means nomads or wanderers of the desert, and not necessarily, or possibly not, the Islamic nation, because we remember coming across a video, what's his name, a debate on the street between a guy called, oh gosh, what's his name? They call him Babyface, Imam, Bashir, and Polite, right, from the Kemet Persuasion, a House of Consciousness video from a few years back. Where he was saying not all Arabs are Muslims, okay, or not all Muslims are Arabs. Yeah, so if you go to find that word in etymology, you'll find that they were like nomads, wanderers of the desert, probably living in tents, had cattle, goats and all that sort of stuff, right? The Semites, meaning that it was a gathering of all these different peoples who became united and were under one, possibly three tribes, right? Parts of a whole, right? The house of Israel, that would have been like the Jews or Judeans, the Hebrews and the Israelites. Three different factions, but under that one brotherhood, right? Okay? Tribe, quote, nation, unquote. And Isaac became the grandfather of the Jewish nation. The prophet spoken of was not to come from among the Jews themselves. That's incorrect, because it said among their brothers, right? Among their brothers were the people he was talking to, Moses was talking to, not the Ishmaelites. Okay? It doesn't state that. Okay? He's saying from amongst your brothers. Your, not the other brothers, right? The ones of Ishmael. doesn't clearly indicate that. Okay, so they're saying this prophet comes from among their brothers, the Ishmaelites. Okay, they're half brothers, because remember Ishmael was half Egyptian, half Chaldean, right? So before the invasion of Egypt and where the Muslims are now, today, right? Prior to them were the Egyptians, who were Africans. They weren't Muslims. They weren't Arabs. Yeah? So they say a descendant of Ishmael is indeed this prophet. See the marginal notes in the NIV Study Bible, New International Version, on verse 121, page 1594. So we will do that. Okay, 1594. Page 1594. Okay, we'll look at the verse 121. Okay, Genesis 121, whatever that. Okay, and then we might have a look at the or recall what it says in the Aramaic. 121. Okay, 121. Okay, where are we? Is that what it's saying? Genesis 121. Oh, it's 21, not 121. Okay. I thought, what's it got to do with birds that we created? Yeah, Genesis 21. Let's have a look here. Genesis 21. See the marginal notes in the NIV Study Bible, New International Version, on verse 121. Yeah, and I'm confused here. 21. 121. Okay, where are we? Okay. While he was living in the desert of Paran, his mother got a wife for him from Egypt. Okay. So they were Egyptians, not Arabs, not Islam, not Mohammedans. He got him a wife from Egypt. So they would have been African, okay, of African descent. Not Muslim or Mohammedan. Okay. So yeah, that's a complete falsification. Okay, we're pretty sure it would say pretty similar in the Aramaic, right? The original ancient Aramaic, Kitab Esrat, or Assyrian Aramaic, or Lishana Attica, Brita, or Genesis in English, dated at 800 BCE. As soon as it was copied by the scribes and monks in Uhai. It is someone in Turkey. Right, so that's another falsification. Okay, we can leave that verse from the original Aramaic underneath this video to verify that. That we're not pulling the wool over anyone's eyes. Also, Isaiah 42:1-13 speaks of the servant of God, his chosen one, and a messenger who will bring down a law. Let's have a look at that. 42:1. Isaiah 42:1. Okay, 42:1. Here is my servant, this is the servant of the Lord. Here is my servant, whom I uphold, my chosen one, in whom I delight. I will put my spirit on him, and he will bring justice to the nations. He will not shout or cry out, or raise his voice in the street. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smouldering wick he will not snuff out. In faithfulness he will bring forth justice. He will not falter or be discouraged till he establishes justice on earth. In his law the islands will put their hope. Okay. See if there's anything else here that might verify who that particular person is. Okay, here he's talking about the house of Israel and the Jews. I will keep you and will make you to be a covenant, a stand, his stance, his promise, an agreement, contract, like agreement for the people, and a light for the Gentiles, these are non-Jews. Okay, To open eyes that are blind, to free captives from prison or bondage, and to release from the dungeon those who sit in darkness. Okay. It's not indicating who that person actually is. You look that up. Do your research on that. Okay. Oh, where were we? He will not falter or be discouraged till he establishes justice on earth. In his law the islands will put their hope. Isaiah 42:4. Verse 11 connects that awaited messenger with the descendant of Kedar. Who was Kedar? According to Genesis 25:13, Kedar was the second son of Ishmael, the ancestor of the Prophet Muhammad. And that's the lady in the Song of Solomon's. She was from Kedar. And we looked up that in the previous video. Possibly Arabic, right? She was probably Arab, because apparently that's a region in the Arabic or Arabian area, possibly, right? But she may not have been Mohammedan or Islamic in that sense. She might have just been one of those of a tribe that lived in tents that wandered the desert regions, right? They had goats, they had goats, sheep, cattle, etc., which they raised, right? And she was dark, okay, meaning Hebrew Israelites say, oh, she's black, Solomon's black, God's black, all this sort of stuff, right? Because she states in the Song of Solomon, is probably about the first or second verse, that she was forced to work in the fields, in the vineyards, by her mother's brothers, sons, or something like that. And she had to neglect her own vineyard, so she got quite dark because of the sun. Logic and common sense, right? She was the lover to be of, she was in love with Solomon, right? She went to visit him, etc., etc. It's all poetry between these two lovers. Okay, God will put his words in the mouth of this prophet. The words of God, the Holy Quran, were truly put into Muhammad's mouth. Okay, he heard it, then he recited it, because apparently he was illiterate, he couldn't spell, couldn't write. Supposedly he had good reciting skills, but Bakar, B-H-K-R or something, Abdul Bakar, his friend or something, his companion, supposedly wrote it all down as he said it. It's what we are recalling, but you have to go do your personal research on that, because it probably be bound to be something that, no, you're completely wrong. It doesn't say that at all. Okay. God sent the angel Gabriel to teach Muhammad the exact words of God, the Holy Quran, and asked him to dictate them to the people as he heard them. Imam Bashir, what's his name? Bashir, when having a debate with polite, with a Kemet persuasion through the Sunniness House of Consciousness, said no, that word means recite, because he was illiterate, he couldn't read or write, so he was reciting it. And I think Bashir might have agreed on that, not sure. So he had this assistant that wrote it all down as he spoke it, as he recited it. Okay, so there's a mistranslation here apparently. They did not come from his own thoughts, but were put into his mouth by the angel Gabriel. During the lifetime of Muhammad, and under his supervision, these words were then memorized and written by his companions. There you go. Okay. Note that God has said in the prophecy of Deuteronomy, if anyone does not listen to my words that the prophet speaks in my name, I myself will call him to account. Deuteronomy 18:19, we covered that. This means that whoever believes in the Bible must believe in what this prophet says, and this prophet is Muhammad. Well, we're not believing in that because he wasn't the prophet. We proved that, okay, through the original Aramaic scriptures. It says, visit this, right, for more information on Muhammad in the Bible. He's not even mentioned in the Bible, is he? We know that for a fact. Okay, the verses in the Quran that mention future events which later came to pass. An example of the events foretold in the Quran is the victory of the Romans over the Persians within 3 to 9 years after the Romans were defeated by the Persians. God has said in the Quran, the Romans have been defeated in the nearest land to the Arabian Peninsula, and they, after their defeat, will be victorious within 3 to 9 years. Quran 32:4. Let us see what history tells us about these wars. A book entitled History of the Byzantine State says that the Roman army was badly defeated at Antioch in 613, and as a result the Persians swiftly pushed forward on all fronts. At that time it was hard to imagine that the Romans would defeat the Persians, but the Quran foretold that the Romans would be victorious within 3 to 9 years. Is that before or after the fact? In 622, 9 years after the Romans' defeat, the two forces, Romans and Persians, met on Armenian soil, and the result was a decisive victory over the Romans over the Persians. For the first time after the Romans' defeat in 613, the prophecy was fulfilled just as God had said in the Quran. And it has an indication of a footnote. History of, or source, History of the Byzantine State, Ostrogorsky, sounds like a Russian, paragraph 101, 100 to 101, and History of Persia, Sykes, volume 1, paragraph 483 to 484. See also the New Encyclopedia Britannica, which can be trusted, Wikipedia, volume 4, paragraph or page 1036. Okay, so check those out to verify that as established fact, evident. Okay. Miracles performed by the Prophet Muhammad. Okay. And here we go. Another miracle was the flowing of water through Muhammad's fingers when his companions got thirsty and had no water except a little in a vessel. They came to him and told him that they had no water to make ablution nor to drink except for what was in the vessel. So Muhammad put his hand in the vessel and the water started gushing up between his fingers. So they drank and made ablution. They were 1,500 companions. Okay, that's miraculous, right? Miracles attributed to this Muhammad, and that's how people over time they make up these things, right? To make this person like legendary. That's why they called a legend, i.e. like Bruce Lee, that he could dodge bullets, and all this sort of stuff. He was invincible. Yeah, he's like a Superman, all this sort of stuff. That's legends created by people over time to boost the credibility of their particular role model or prophet, guru, whatever, right? It's always in the many religions. They seem to do that a lot. Yeah, the simple life of Muhammad, if we compare the life of Muhammad before his mission as a prophet and his life after he began his mission as a prophet, we will conclude that it is beyond reason to think that Muhammad was a false prophet who claimed prophethood to attain material gains, greatness, glory, or power. Before his mission as a prophet, Muhammad had no financial worries. As a successful and reputed merchant, Muhammad drew a satisfactory and comfortable income. After his mission as a prophet, and because of it, he became worse off materially. To clarify this more, let us browse the following sayings on his life. Okay, so a prophet, defined even in the Christian circle, right, the Bible, a prophet should be one who gets a special message from God, but there should be someone else that can translate what's being said in the language of God or through this person, right? They have to have an interpreter. Without an interpreter, then it's a useless prophecy, okay? If no one can understand it or hear its message, right? Okay, so they're referring to his young wife, Aisha, Muhammad's wife, said, "Oh, my nephew," no, what was that? His wife. "Oh, my nephew, we would sight 3 new moons in 2 months." They say she's talking to somebody else, a nephew of Muhammad. "We would sight 3 new moons in 2 months without lighting a fire to cook a meal in the Prophet's houses." Her nephew asked, "Oh, aunt, what sustained you?" She said, "The 2 black things, dates and water." But the Prophet had some Ansar neighbours who had milk-giving she-camels, and they used to send the Prophet some of its milk, okay, and so forth. He didn't break bread. The mattress of the Prophet on which he slept was made of leather, stuffed with the fibre of the date palm tree. Okay. Amir ibn al-Harith, one of Muhammad's companions, said that when the Prophet died, he left neither money nor anything else except his white riding mule, his arms, and a piece of land which he left to charity. So he's pretty much broke. Muhammad lived this hard life till he died, although the Muslim treasury was at his disposal. The greater part of the Arabian Peninsula was Muslim before he died, and the Muslims were victorious over 18 years of his mission. It is possible that Muhammad might have claimed prophethood, or is it possible that Muhammad might have claimed prophethood in order to attain status, greatness and power, and so forth? Okay. And here's the Quran, quotes, etc. Okay, supposedly tried to assassinate him, but failed. Phenomenal growth of Islam. This phenomenon indicates that Islam is truly a religion from God. It is unreasonable to think that so many Americans and people from different countries have converted to Islam without careful consideration and deep contemplation before concluding that Islam is true. These converts have come from different countries, classes, races and walks of life. They include scientists, professors, philosophers, journalists, politicians, actors and athletes. You could say that about every other religion, Judaism, Christianity, as well as Islam. The points mentioned in this chapter constitute only some of the evidence supporting the belief that the Quran is the literal word of God, that Muhammad is truly a prophet sent by God, and that Islam is truly a religion of God. Okay, so if you have the people of the book and their manuscripts, etc., their texts, and if it originally came from God's mouth, okay, and it was called Lishana Artika Supriya, which means the language of God, what is the Arabic, okay? Because Muhammad apparently loved the people of the book, respected them, etc. Their language was dying out. Arabic was the new trend. So rather than that be lost to history, time and history, he supposedly rewrote a lot of their texts into the Arabic for his people, etc. Right? Because he wanted to create a new religion specifically for his people, right? And he didn't believe in the triune or the Trinity concept, okay? Because he couldn't understand it. Again, go do your research on that, okay? Personal research, study it, okay? Find out. Okay, this is what we've come across over time, doing a personal research and research, studying, trying to find the truth. We've come across this one. Okay, so and then they say here's some benefits about Islam and how you can get into through the door to eternal paradise, all this sort of stuff.